As a little girl, Emily always believed that marriage was the ultimate destination of love. She grew up in a middle-class family in suburban Chicago, where her parents had been married for over 30 years. They were the picture-perfect couple in family photos. Her father an engineer, her mother a stay-at-home mom who took care of Emily and her two siblings. Every evening, they sat down for dinner together, and Emily never saw them argue. Her mother often told her, "One day, you'll meet a good man. If you treat him well, you'll have a happy life." Emily believed that. In high school, she was obsessed with romantic movies like 10 Things I Hate About You, A Walk to Remember, and The Notebook, sweet love stories where couples overcame all obstacles to be together. As a teenager, she imagined that marriage was a magical experience. Two people in love building a home, sharing romantic breakfasts, and holding hands as they grew old. Then she met Jake. Emily met Jake at 24, when she had just started her first job at an advertising firm in New York. Jake was a young, ambitious lawyer with a charming smile and a confidence she had never seen in anyone else. From the first time they met at a mutual friend's party, she was drawn to him. The first few months of dating felt like a movie. Jake took Emily to fancy restaurants, explored cozy Brooklyn coffee shops with her, and sent her goodnight texts every night. They spent entire weekends together, cooking, watching movies, and talking for hours about their dreams and the future. After 2 years of dating, Jake proposed during a vacation in Paris. It was a romantic evening by the Seine when he got down on one knee, held her hand and said, "I want to spend my life with you." Emily cried tears of joy. This was the moment she had dreamed of since she was a little girl. Their wedding was nothing short of perfection. A beautiful garden ceremony in California, fresh flowers, live music, and the blessings of friends and family. Everyone said they were the perfect couple, proof that true love existed. Emily believed that marriage would only make their love stronger. But no one had told her that marriage was not a happy ending. It was the beginning of an entirely different journey. 2 years after the wedding, Emily realized that married life wasn't what she had expected. The romantic date nights had been replaced by hurried dinners, where Jake barely looked up from his emails. Their deep, emotional conversations had turned into short exchanges about their busy schedules. "Can you pick up the dry cleaning? I have an early meeting tomorrow. Don't forget to set the alarm. Can we talk about this later? I'm really exhausted." Jake still loved her, she knew that. But the excitement was gone. When was the last time he surprised her with flowers or simply asked how her day was? She couldn't remember. Emily used to think that love was a feeling. If two people loved each other, they would always be happy. But now she understood that love is not just a feeling. It is a choice you make every day. She started asking herself, "What did I do wrong?" Emily realized that, like many other American women, she had entered marriage with unrealistic expectations. Society had taught her to believe that if you found the right person, everything would naturally work out. But no one told her that even the happiest marriages require effort. They didn't fight about big things, but about small, everyday issues. Who should do the dishes? Who should handle the bills? Why didn't Jake say goodnight like he used to? And more importantly, why did she feel lonely in her own marriage? One evening, Emily called her mother. With a trembling voice she asked, "Is marriage always like this?" Her mother was silent for a moment, then replied, "Marriage is not just about love, it's about learning how to love every day, even when it's hard." It wasn't the answer Emily wanted, but it was the truth. One day, Emily decided to make a change. Instead of waiting for Jake to notice her feelings, she sat down and talked to him openly. She shared how she felt, her loneliness, her disappointments, the small things she missed, but he seemed to have forgotten. Jake was quiet for a long time before sighing. "I know. I feel the same way. I never meant to hurt you, but I just assumed you were fine." That night they made a decision. They set a new rule. Every week, they would have at least one night just for each other, no work, no phones. Every day they would take at least 10 minutes to truly talk. Not about responsibilities, but about things that really mattered. And most importantly, they would remind themselves that love doesn't mean things will always be easy. But if they try, they can find their way back to each other. Emily still believed in love, but not in the way she once did. She now understood that marriage wasn't a fairy tale ending, but a journey filled with challenges. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't always romantic, but if both people were willing to work for it, it could be the most beautiful part of life. Emily and Jake's marriage didn't fall apart overnight. There was no explosive argument, no doors slamming, no cruel words thrown in anger. Instead, it slowly fractured over time. Tiny cracks that seemed harmless at first, but grew wider until they became an unbridgeable gap. Emily had always believed that love could fix anything, but now she realized that love wasn't what disappeared. Connection was. They still slept in the same bed, but each facing opposite directions. They still had dinner together, but their conversations revolved around work, bills, and schedules. They still said, "I love you" and "good night," but the words felt emptier than before. Jake was busier than ever with his job at the law firm. He often came home late, sometimes bringing work with him until the early hours of the morning. Emily tried to be understanding, but a part of her felt left behind. At first she made an effort. She cooked his favorite meals, bought tickets to a movie he had been wanting to see, and tried to engage him in conversation. But Jake would only smile, say thank you, and then return to his laptop. One day, Emily realized that she had stopped trying. On weekends, instead of spending time together like they used to, they gradually formed separate routines. Jake spent most of his time with colleagues and attending work events, long client dinners that stretched into the night. When he was home, he often sat in a corner, scrolling through his phone or watching TV, his mind seemingly elsewhere. Emily, on the other hand, tried to fill the emptiness by finding her own activities. She joined an evening painting class on Tuesdays, practiced yoga on Saturday mornings, and met up with friends more often. But even when she kept herself busy, the loneliness never went away. One Friday evening, when Jake told her he had to leave for an unexpected weekend work trip, Emily simply nodded. She didn't ask the usual questions. "When will you be back? Can you reschedule? Will you miss me?" She just said, "Okay." Jake didn't even notice the difference. Everything changed one Saturday night. Emily had just returned from her yoga class, feeling relaxed and refreshed after a long week. But as she stepped into their apartment, she was met with complete darkness. No sound from the TV, no sign of Jake. She checked her phone, no messages. Opening the fridge, she saw that the meal she had prepared in the morning was untouched. Jake hadn't come home. She told herself he was probably working late again. But then a thought crept into her mind. "I don't even know where he is." That realization scared her. Not because she suspected he was lying or cheating, but because she understood that they had stopped sharing their lives with each other. She remembered the early days of their relationship, when they couldn't wait to tell each other every little thing that had happened during the day. Now those conversations were gone. When Jake finally came home at 2 a.m., Emily was still awake. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice calm but tired. Jake frowned, surprised to see her still waiting. "At the office." "I told you." Emily shook her head. "No, you didn't." Jake sighed and put his briefcase on the table. "I must have forgotten. But does it really matter?" Emily stared at him for a long moment. "Jake, I don't care that you're busy. I don't care that you come home late. But I care that we don't talk anymore." Jake was silent. For the first time in months, they looked at each other, really looked. And for the first time, Emily realized that Jake felt just as lost as she did. The next morning, Emily woke up early, made coffee, and sat alone with her thoughts. She knew they couldn't go on like this forever. But she also knew that marriage doesn't fix itself. It takes effort from both people. When Jake walked into the kitchen, he looked exhausted from the night before. Emily took a deep breath. "We need to change." Jake hesitated, but then he nodded. "I know." For the first time in a long time, they had an honest conversation. Emily told him how she felt, how she had been feeling abandoned, lonely, and forgotten in their marriage. Jake admitted that he never meant to distance himself, but he had let work take over, assuming that everything between them was fine. They didn't find a solution right away, but at least they had started talking again. Over the next week, Emily and Jake tried something new. They scheduled time for their marriage. Every Friday night would be their night, no phones, no work. They would go out, try new restaurants, and talk about things they hadn't discussed in months. At first, it felt a little awkward. But slowly, they found comfort in each other again. When Jake told her about an interesting case at work, Emily laughed. When Emily shared stories about her painting class, Jake was genuinely curious and asked to see her artwork. It wasn't a miracle fix, but it was a start. Because marriage isn't about finding love again. It's about choosing to love each other again, even when it's hard. Emily and Jake knew that mending their marriage wasn't going to happen overnight. They couldn't expect that after a few date nights, they would regain everything they had lost. Marriage isn't a miracle, and no one can draw an easy path because love is a long journey filled with challenges. One Sunday morning, as they sat having breakfast together, Emily realized that while things weren't perfect yet, there had been a change. It wasn't huge changes, but small ones that carried great meaning. Jake was looking at her more when they spoke. They laughed together more. And with each passing day, they began to put each other first again. Jake had started making more of an effort. He began rearranging his work schedule to spend more time with Emily, turning down late-night work sessions, and instead choosing to spend time with her. They started cooking dinner together again, cleaning up side by side, and sharing the little stories of their day like they used to. While there was still much to improve, Emily felt that a better life could be built from small efforts, not big expectations. However, things didn't always go smoothly. Marriage isn't a straight path, but a series of crossroads and unexpected turns. That fall, an unexpected event came up that forced them to face new challenges. Emily received an invitation to attend a cooking course at a prestigious culinary school in New York. It was an opportunity she had dreamed of for a long time, a step toward developing her passion and career. But when she told Jake about the opportunity, he didn't react the way she had hoped. "You're going to leave everything here and go to culinary school? Your job is going well, and we're working hard to improve everything. Can't you wait for a while?" Jake didn't sound angry, but there was worry in his voice. Emily could feel it. He was afraid of the changes this could bring to their life. Emily couldn't understand why Jake was so concerned. She didn't think that a cooking class would disrupt their entire life. But as she thought about it more, she realized that she had changed too much over the past months. Her dreams and passions had been forgotten in the face of everyday responsibilities and pressures. In marriage, sometimes you have to make difficult choices. Emily didn't want to give up the opportunity, but she didn't want to hurt Jake either. She decided to hold off and think carefully about the balance between personal dreams and family responsibilities. Jake wasn't the easiest person to change. He continued with his work, and Emily slowly started to feel exhausted from sacrificing her own desires. It felt as though everything was revolving around work and family responsibilities, with no room for her own self. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching TV, Emily looked into Jake's eyes and said, "Don't you think we need to find ourselves again?" Jake paused for a moment. "What do you mean?" Emily wasn't sure how to put it into words. She just knew that if they didn't figure out how to balance work, love, and personal desires, there would come a time when they would lose all three. "You don't feel like we're getting caught up in this whirlwind of work and responsibilities? I know work is important, but I can't just be part of that." Jake was silent for a moment, then gently replied, "I feel that way too. But my job is really important." Emily sighed. She understood. But at the same time, she felt that a marriage can't just revolve around work. The truth was, both Emily and Jake had become so busy that they didn't realize they were neglecting the most important thing in their lives, themselves. Then one early morning, as Jake was getting ready to leave for work, Emily sat down and thought about what mattered most in life, finding herself again. She decided not to give up on her dream, but she also knew that marriage isn't about leading separate lives. It's about finding harmony between two people. So, Emily started to reclaim what she had lost. She enrolled in the cooking class, but at the same time, she made plans to spend more time with Jake and the family. She understood that a happy marriage requires sharing, respect, and understanding between both partners. Jake also realized that he needed to make space for Emily to grow. He began spending more time with the family, and even started sharing more responsibilities at home. They learned to work together, rather than let work and personal responsibilities consume them. They began to set boundaries and respect each other's personal space, while also understanding that they needed to support each other in order to grow together. Although there were times when Emily and Jake felt tired and confused, they knew that every small step, every positive change was valuable. They couldn't have everything perfect right away, but they were willing to try and work hard to rebuild their relationship. And through this journey, they realized that love isn't a destination, it's the process of going through life together. Marriage isn't about perfection, but it's about choice. It's a choice to love each other every day, to support each other through the challenges of life, and to face the obstacles together. Life for Emily and Jake had changed since they began their efforts to mend their relationship. Though not everything was perfect, they had rediscovered moments of peace and happiness together, things that had been lost along the way. One weekend evening, they sat together on the couch, enjoying a pizza Emily had made herself, watching old photos. They laughed at the silly moments from their past, recalling the times they went out together, and the trips that had made them bond in the early days of their relationship. Jake looked into Emily's eyes, his gaze lighting up as it had the first time they met, and said, "I think we've forgotten moments like these." Emily smiled, saying nothing, just nodding. She understood that marriage isn't always filled with romantic moments, but these simple moments were exactly what they really needed. Emily had learned that love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the small, everyday acts of care. A loving glance, a check-in when the other person seems tired, or simply sitting together in silence and feeling the presence of one another. Jake also realized that work isn't everything. He started figuring out how to balance his career with family life, between personal ambitions and responsibilities in their marriage. He began to make time for Emily, even if just a few hours each week, but that made all the difference. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Old challenges came back, and this time, they arrived in the form of a big decision. One morning, after Jake had just wrapped up an important meeting at work, he received an unexpected call from his boss. He was offered the chance to relocate to another city to lead a major project. It was a career-defining opportunity he had been waiting for. However, it meant being away from Emily and their family for at least a year. Jake felt conflicted. He wanted to advance in his career, but he didn't want to be separated from Emily again. His feelings about family and work were in direct conflict. He had to choose: put his career above his family, or maintain his connection with his wife. Jake came home, his eyes still full of worry. Emily saw him and sensed the tension in the air. "What's going on?" Emily asked. Jake remained silent for a moment before responding. "I just got an offer to move to another city. It's a big opportunity, but it would change everything between us." Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with concern but also with love. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she placed her hand over his and whispered, "We've already gone through so much, Jake. I don't want us to be separated again, but I also don't want to hold you back from your dream. I know this is a big chance, but what if it changes everything?" Jake felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. He looked into Emily's eyes, feeling the love she had for him, and once again, he understood that marriage isn't just about beautiful moments. It's about making choices and commitments. He had to decide whether he could pursue his dream without hurting the woman he loved. After several days of thinking and discussing, Jake made his decision. He decided without hesitation to turn down the offer, at least for now. He didn't want to let his career take away what mattered most in his life. He sat down with Emily and said, "I've thought about it a lot, and I've decided to stay. I don't want to lose you and everything we've built." Emily was surprised and moved. She knew this wasn't an easy decision for Jake, but it was a sacrifice she deeply appreciated. "I'm so proud of you, Jake. I know this wasn't easy, but I believe we can build a future without giving up too much." Emily understood that in life, you don't always have to sacrifice personal dreams to make a marriage work. Sometimes balance is the key. They had found a way to grow together without losing each other. Since that decision, Emily and Jake felt their relationship growing stronger. They learned to continue developing within new boundaries, building a more balanced life, where both could nurture their personal desires without it affecting their love for each other. They began making long-term plans, trips, joint projects, and small things they wanted to experience together. Even though their work still kept them busy, they had learned how to make time for each other and not let the challenges outside their home drive them apart. Jake and Emily didn't just find the happy moments of their past. They also created new, stronger memories, reaffirming that true love is a daily choice and commitment. And so, they moved forward together on their path, not just with love, but with the belief that every new day is another opportunity to love each other even more. After all the ups and downs, Emily and Jake had finally found peace in their marriage. The difficulties they had faced earlier helped them realize that sometimes, happiness doesn't require big changes. They just needed to be patient, understand each other, and be ready to face every challenge together. One beautiful morning, Emily and Jake woke up late after a busy week. They sat on the balcony, sipping coffee, and watching the sunlight stream through the windows. In the calm of the early morning, this feeling wasn't new to them anymore. In the past, they had been caught up in work and family responsibilities, forgetting the importance of moments like this. I remember when we used to just sit together and talk about the little things, Emily said, laughing lightly. Jake looked at her, his eyes shining with love. I miss those moments too. It's what we really need, right? Emily nodded, realizing that they had managed to rebuild everything from the simplest things. It wasn't about arguments or the stress of work anymore, but about harmony in everyday life, where love and care brought them the joy and peace they truly deserved. Although they had found peace in their relationship, Emily knew that life wasn't just about maintaining the current state. She wanted to continue growing and do something meaningful. And this wasn't just about her career or personal dreams. It was an important decision for their marriage. One evening, as they were having dinner together, Emily talked about a new opportunity she had received, a big project that could help her grow in her career. She felt excited but also a little anxious, knowing that this would require her to dedicate more time to work. But when she looked at Jake, she felt she needed to share this with him. Jake, I've just received a new opportunity. It's a huge project, and I think it'll help me grow a lot, Emily said, looking at her husband with hopeful eyes. Jake looked at her, his expression not showing surprise. He had noticed the changes in Emily and realized she had been looking for something new to grow and evolve. I understand, Jake said. I just want to make sure you won't have to sacrifice us again. I know you've given so much to the family, but you deserve to have what you want too. Emily felt relieved hearing those words. She knew this wasn't an easy decision for both of them, but Jake's support was the most important thing to her. The journey to regain balance in married life wasn't easy, but Emily and Jake understood that they couldn't give up. They had decided once again that both of them would need to work on personal growth while maintaining a strong connection with each other. Emily started diving into the new project with passion and determination. However, she always made sure not to let work take up all her time. Every evening after work, she would spend time with Jake, sharing stories of the day and doing simple things together like taking walks or cooking dinner. Jake, noticing the changes in Emily, also began adjusting his work schedule. He learned how to balance his time so that they could both grow in their careers while maintaining a happy family life. He no longer let work overshadow their relationship. Instead, he created space for their love to flourish. Although they had found balance, life wasn't always smooth. There were still days when work and family responsibilities left them feeling stressed and tired. However, they had learned how to face those difficulties without letting them affect their relationship. Jake and Emily realized that marriage isn't about living a life free of struggles. In reality, they accepted that challenges would always be present, but what mattered was how they faced and dealt with them. Together, they had overcome many obstacles, and those challenges had only made their bond stronger. One afternoon, as they sat together, Emily said, "You know, even though there are tough times, we're still a team. You're the person I can rely on, no matter what." Jake smiled, his eyes sparkling. "And you're the reason I try every day. We're in this together always." Looking back on the days that had passed, Emily and Jake felt happy that they had rebuilt what they once thought was lost. What they had learned throughout this journey wasn't just how to love each other, but also how to respect and nurture a relationship for a lifetime. Their love had changed, had grown, but it had never disappeared. They had learned how to accept each other, grow together, and keep loving each other no matter what life threw at them. For Emily and Jake, the road ahead wasn't going to be easy, but they were ready. They believed that anyone can find happiness, as long as they are willing to work for it. And so their journey began anew.